bear with us today. It's our day. I wasn't expecting to introduce myself in case I overhype, but I'll just try to repeat what I said to my name is Stefazwa Mazibuko. Some of you are familiar faces, and some are new to me. I'm an award-winning author of written 4 books. My first book was A Dream That Was Worth Fighting For. This is my life story. As a young girl, I was very ambitious and intelligent. Not that I'm happy myself, I'm sure the reports also show. But unfortunately, before writing my final exam, which is equivalent to matric, I was sick. And I got so sick that it affected and changed my journey. And in this story, maybe then you've had a dream and you've faced adversity. This book would encourage you to rise and dream again. So this is the dream that I was fighting for. After writing this book, many people ask me when I give presentations on I've done a number of presentations, some on SAFM and one gospel and Rainbow FM. So some people would call me, how did you find yourself to achieve your dream? So I wrote another book which is called The Dream, and it is 12 P's to achieving an audacious dream that impacts generations. So in those P's, we started how to perceive your dream, up until how to pursue and overcome. So the different P's that gives you like a guideline on how to achieve your dream. Then after that, we did a planner, which we produce annually, which we call the Dreamer's Daily Planner. So we produce it annually. Now we're working on the 2025. On the Dreamer's Daily Planner, we have a page where you write your dream on a page. Then we have, after every month, we have a dream tracker. After you've done January, when you've set your goals and you've achieved your dream, we have a dream tracker where you write dreams celebrated. Because we believe you have to track on your dreams. So you write your dreams celebrated, then you also write your dreams deferred. So that you work on those dreams which you have not achieved on. Key learning points, action points, and goals for the next month. And there are also inspirational quotes, inspirational verses, and the space to write your everyday schedule. I believe a dream that is planned on is half achieved. If you can write a dream and you can plan on it, you're almost halfway. And then I wrote this book, The King's Dream for His Daughter. This is someone's story whom I walked the journey with, who was experiencing abuse in their relationship. And they managed to overcome, and they stayed, and their relationship was restored, and the marriage was restored. We don't say stay or go. Leave the marriage or stay, but if it can be worked on, then we encourage you to work on the marriage or the relationship. Because it's not always that when they're in an abusive relationship, they just pay. Sometimes it's the root causes that need to be dealt with. And if they can be overcome, the relationship is restored, and the people involved change, the marriage can be restored, or relationship can be restored. So this is a story of victory. It also addresses women's self-esteem, worthiness, and encourages women that you can still arise and pursue and achieve your dreams despite challenges that you're facing in a relationship. Your worthiness is not because of the outside. You're not worthy because someone is telling you that you're worthy. You're worthy because of your internal, because you believe and you know. Because if you don't believe in it, inside you that you're worthy, no matter even if you're married to a man who wakes up every morning and tells you you're beautiful, you won't believe it because it's not coming from within. So worthiness comes from within. And we also did a prayer journal. I believe a praying woman is a powerful woman. So this prayer journal, you write your prayers in different sections, where spiritual, professional, and many other sections that you follow up. So you're basically planning your prayers, your career, social, intercession, and so forth. So you write your prayers. I've seen results, because I believe if you write your prayer, whenever you look at it and it's not answered, it motivates you to go back to God and say, God, this has been answered. We need the answer. And God honors an effective, diligent prayer as long as it's in God's will. So this is the prayer journal. The legacy of my father is a story of my father, how he has impacted his community. Being leaving a legacy, you don't have to be a celebrity. Sometimes we put it across as if you have impacted the whole world. But sometimes you just need to impact that community, those few people around you, to leave a legacy. This book, The Legacy of My Father, and The King's Dream for his daughter, and the dream were approved by Basic Education Gauteng to be distributed in libraries. And I just want to share a short story. Last week, I went to the prison, Mamkuru, to see someone. She bought my book last year, so she was involved in some issue. So when I was there, she said to me, I saw someone reading your book, The King's Dream for his daughter, an inmate. And I asked her, I know this author. And I said, how did my book come? And they told me that it's in Mamkuru library. So I was really humbled to know that, the book is there. Then the dream that was worth fighting for, and The King's Dream, these are award-winning books. So if you want the books, we can talk after. Today I'm here to talk about, I gave it a topic, rape is an identity killer. Don't be silenced. Normally, when a person goes through a rape, they are silenced. They could be silenced by the perpetrator, or inside them, they feel no one will understand, so they are silenced. I'm going to talk about perceptions that cause people to do sexual abuse. I'm going to read from the Bible, if you would allow me, this story that really explains what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to read from 2 Samuel 18, from verse 1 to 21. It's a story about Amnon and Tamar. Some of you may be familiar with this story. Amnon and Tamar. In the course of time, Amnon, son of David, fell in love with Tamar, the beautiful sister of Absalom, son of David. Amnon became frustrated to the point of illness on account of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and it seemed impossible for him to do anything to her. Now Amnon had a friend named Jonadab, son of Shimeah, David's brother. Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He asked Amnon, why do you, the king's son, look so haggard, morning after morning? Won't you tell me? Amnon said to him, I'm in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Go to bed and pretend to be ill. Jonadab said, when your father comes to see you, say to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight, so I may watch it and then eat it from her hand. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. When the king came to see him, Amnon said to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and make some special bread in my sight, so I may eat from her hand. David sent word to Tamar at the palace, go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare some food for him. So Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight and baked it. Then she took the pan and served him at the bread, but he refused to eat. Send everyone out of here, Amnon said. So everyone left him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food here into my bedroom, so I may eat from your hands. And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, he grabbed her and said, come to bed with me, my sister. Don't, my brother, she said to him, don't force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Don't do this wicked thing. What about me? Where could I get rid of my disgrace? And what about you? You would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. But he refused to listen to her, and since he was stronger than she, he raped her. And Amnon hated her with intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he had loved her. Amnon said to her, get up and get out. No, she said to him, sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you have already done to me. But he refused to listen to her. He called his personal servant and said, get this woman out of here, and bolt the door after her. So his servant put her out and bolted the door after her. She was wearing a richly ornamented robe, for this was the kind of garment the virgin daughters of the king wore. Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the ornamented robe she was wearing. She put her hand on her head and went away, weeping aloud as she went. Her brother Absalom said to her, has that Amnon your brother been with you? Be quiet now, my sister. He is your brother. Don't take this thing for heart. And Tamar lived in her brother Absalom's house, a desolate woman. When King David heard all this, he was furious. Absalom never said a word to Amnon, either good or bad. He hated Amnon because he had disgraced his sister Tamar. We all know that eventually Absalom killed Amnon because of the anger that was inside him. There are different perceptions that make people rape women or children. Today I'm just going to focus on the woman. We're focusing on the woman. There could be women rapists, but today we're talking about the men. We have read here in this section, Amnon thought he loved Tamar, but love doesn't force itself on somebody. That was lust. And that's a perception when some men think if they love you, they can force themselves on you. If it has to be forced, then it's not love. Love respects the other person. There's also a perception, because we are in a patriarchal society, men, in some societies, men are more superior than women. So they can take a woman as a property, they can take a woman as a slave. And when you are a slave, your master can do anything with you. So in some countries like India, you find a lot of women have been held, women and children, as slaves. And because of society, it's okay for a woman to be held like a property. But it's just a perception, because that's not how God created us. God did not create us as second-hand or inferior to anybody. And there's also a perception that some men believe that if you sleep with a virgin and you're HIV positive, you are healed. You can get healed, or a sexually transmitted disease, which is also just a perception. UNICEF has confirmed that most of the rape cases happen because of the virgin cleansing myth, where they believe that you sleep with a virgin, you're cleansed from HIV. And we all know that it's not true, and that's a way that HIV and STDs are spread. There's also a perception, I understand in South Africa, where men believe that people with disabilities are inactive in sex. So because they're inactive, so they perceive that mostly they could be virgins. So they abuse them because of that. Because they're believing they're inactive sexually, so they're virgins, and because of that myth. And there are also people, which is just a perception, which causes other people to rape girls and women, where there are rituals, where someone goes to a spiritualist, then a spiritual person, then they are told that if you sleep with girls or virgins, you'll be wealthy or you'll sustain your wealth, which we all know that is not true. But this is what happens in the community and in the society. where people become victims because of people's beliefs. And the statistics, they say South Africa has one of the highest cases in the world for rape cases against women and children. And also the Tears Foundation also says South African children, most of them will be raped under the age of 18. So we can see that the cases are very high for rape, and we have got work to do to help you. It could be, you may not have been raped, but maybe someone has been raped, that you know. And some of you come from war zones, in DRC, where also some soldiers rape people because they've got that power. And maybe you know you were abused at a tender age. And then the effects of some which I've mentioned, like we have teenage pregnancies. And we know when the teenage pregnancy, they say that the rate is very high, especially in South Africa. And if a child raises another child, we know the results. So rape leads to, they say most of the cases for teenage pregnancy are caused because of rape. Of course, there are a few or some cases where there is consent, but most of them are rape issues. And also we have HIV and AIDS, that is caused because of rape. We've spoken about that. Then disgrace. In the scripture that we read, we saw that Tamar was disgraced. She had to tear her royal clothing to wear ashes because of disgrace. You can imagine if your husband comes to you, or your child daughter comes to you and says they've been raped by your husband. The disgrace that comes with it normally needs people to be silent. You cannot imagine yourself. Maybe your husband is a man of God, or is a respectable man in the community. Most of these rape cases, especially in family, they're done by people whom we least expect. It could be a brother like Amnon and Tamar, but it's such a person who, it cuts you so strongly that for you to go to the police and say it's my husband, the one who was supposed to protect the daughter, who did the harm, it comes with disgrace. And sometimes that's what causes people to say, okay, for the reputation of our family, let's not talk. But what are you doing to the girl in protecting your reputation? There's lots of self-esteem. I read a book of a lady who became a prostitute or lady of the night because she had been raped several times. She lost her self-esteem. To hear it was, so what? Then what? I've already lost it. So sexual abuse makes people lose their self-esteem. And they can make themselves available to anyone because sometimes they've been silent enough, and in their expressing themselves, they make themselves vulnerable. They throw themselves back to the men. It also makes people lose their identity. I attended a conference at some stage, and there was this lady. She was a fine lady when you look at her, but when she spoke, she started crying. And she said, when she shared the story, when she was 8 years old, she was in the community. They lived in a township. She was invited for her birthday. So they said to her, it was a surprise. So she goes to this room, and unfortunately, it was a very bad surprise because the 8 boys who invited her to the room, all of them raped her. And at that stage when she was sharing, she had changed her identity. She was identifying herself as a lesbian because she said she cannot stand men. And she does not celebrate her birthday since that day. It's because someone thought it was okay to violate these girls. Who knows where she would be now? She was made and forced by circumstances to change her identity. And what pained her most was the mother could not understand. So now the mother, because probably of disgrace, she denied him. So she, instead of finding healing, it was more pain, where you are being rejected by a mother. You are being, because the mother could not stand changing identity to be a lesbian. So she lost in all ways, in all the ways that she thought. Because probably she thought if she changed the identity, she would find some form of identity in that. But it didn't help. It didn't help her. So sexual abuse makes people lose their identity. And trauma. Many people live with trauma because they were abused at a tender age and they were forced to be silenced. And every time they are walking with that burden, with that pain and that trauma, which may never be healed or may never be dealt with. I heard on the radio the other day when they were reporting that a father had drugged a 4-month-old baby. And this comes from the perceptions which I was just sharing, where a man thinks they can rape a person. If you look at a baby, there's nothing attractive about them. There's nothing attractive about them, but because of those perceptions that people have and beliefs that they develop, because they're selfish, they're looking at themselves and not looking at the future of the other person, they can do that. But it also comes costly, because if a family is poor, that child may need to go through reconstructive surgery, which is quite expensive. And if they don't have that money, what will happen to the future of that baby? So those are some of the effects. And whenever, as a mother, we must take it our responsibility that we must be safe space. As much as sometimes it comes with disgrace. If your daughter comes and they say they've been left, encourage them to report. Take them to report the case to the police. Sometimes people don't go to report these cases because they are when they need evidence, it's a lot of work. But as a responsible parent, no matter who is the perpetrator, you need to report the case so that justice can take place. And you don't have to bat the child. You have to make sure that there is some evidence that you take with. If they're still in their clothes, just take them as they are. Don't bat them, don't clean them, so that there can be evidence. Because it's very difficult sometimes to tell somebody that you have been raped. There's no evidence. And then it appears as if probably the police are not sensitive. Because they want something, you can't just go to somebody and say, you have raped somebody because of what we've had. They need something tangible that is shown. And your wellness is your responsibility as an individual. Sometimes we carry a lot of pain because we're thinking somebody is going to come somewhere. But you need to rise up. Whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's verbal abuse, whether it's physical abuse, whichever form of abuse, your wellness is your responsibility. You have to come to a place of saying, enough is enough. I need to get out of this. I need to find help. And taking responsibilities, you seek help. There are times where what makes people silent sometimes is fear of judgment. But judgment comes for so long. If you are judged now and you get help and you are well and warm, it will be something of the past. So don't fear judgment, because judgment comes from perception of the people. The reason why somebody judges you is probably because they're failing to be empathetic, they're failing to understand your situation. That's why you need to go to people who are qualified, like trauma counselors, who probably understand your situation and who can deal with the situation without judgment. Maybe if you go to the next door neighbor, they may not understand. So they will probably judge, not because they are mean, but probably because they have no capacity to assist in that regard. So there are also many non-profit organizations that I'm sure Future Families do with that. You can also contact them for help. Then they can sit down with you, they can help you go through it and counsel you to get out of it. But you need to take responsibility and know that my wellness is my responsibility. You can also get a mentor. A mentor is someone who can help you see what you cannot see. And it can also be somebody who's gone through what you have gone through. We don't always have to go through pain or challenges. If there's somebody who's gone through what you have gone through and they've overcome, there's no need to go through the same pain. They can tell you the how to, and you can overcome without going through so much pain. And they can also push you to break barriers that may be affecting you or that may be holding you from working on your self-esteem, and they can help you develop your confidence. Maybe you have chosen a wrong career, like the lady I spoke about, who ended up being a prostitute. They can also find yourself and help you look for, identify your gifts so that you can look for a career to pursue that will not probably make your situation worse or bring more shame and disgrace to you. They can also help you expand your perceptions and change your perceptions about yourself. Sometimes you just need another woman who is ready to sit in front of you and to tell you you're capable, and to tell you you're special, and to tell you that which you have not told yourself. But sometimes the worst enemy in our life is us. We sit there in the mirror and you tell yourself, how could they do that to me? Why me? But you need somebody to tell you that to help you get out of that pain and get healing. Find a way to find healing. There's healing. Maybe you could give a platform to every woman here to share their story. Everyone has their own story to share. So sometimes when you're walking, it's like, I'm the only one who has this story, who has gone through this pain. So when you share your story, maybe to a mentor, to a counselor, you realize that you're not the only one. And your situation is not the worst case that has happened. Whatever you've gone through, maybe somebody somewhere has gone through that as well. So you also need to forgive yourself. Sometimes when we've been abused, we are so hard on ourselves. But you need to come to a place of forgiving yourself. Instead of asking, why me? Instead of asking, what could I have done better? If a 4-month child is raped, what could they have done better? So when you have found yourself in that situation, when there's nothing that you could have done, sometimes you just need to work on forgiving yourself. And tell yourself, there's nothing I could have done. Maybe you may have been told, because you're wearing a miniskirt, because you exposed yourself, you did out of ignorance. There's always a starting point. There's always a place where you look at yourself and say, I'll forgive myself. Because there's no one who can love you better than you. Sometimes the best thing that you can give yourself is to look yourself in the mirror and say, I forgive you for the past mistakes. And it helps you to go forward when you've forgiven yourself. And asking yourself, but why, may not help. Because sometimes forgiveness frees the offended, despite the perception of the offender. They may never come to say, I'm sorry. So you need to take responsibility and tell yourself, whether they come and they don't, I forgive myself. And that sometimes, as hard as it is, you need to forgive the perpetrator. Because sometimes, as we mentioned, the perpetrator may be your father, and you will be there the rest of his life and your life. You may not talk to him, but your brothers, your mother, who is connected to them. So either way, there's some connection. At a funeral back in KwaZulu-Natal, you may find him. I remember I attended a concert of this lady, she's a businesswoman, she's died now, in Nigeria, and she was sharing me a story. when her uncle abused her, he raped her many times before she shared with the family. And the uncle did not apologize. He was a respectable father figure in the family. So she had to look for help. She had to look for mentors. She had to get help. And according to her, fortunately, she found a husband who understood her situation. And he walked through the journey with her. And one day she was giving a presentation at a conference. And the uncle came while they were now introducing her. And the uncle walked all the way from where she was sitting and came and apologized and said, "I'm sorry for what I've done to you." And she told him that she had forgiven him a long time ago. Because there's no way she could have been where she was if she had not forgiven herself and forgiven him. So you need to find ways to forgive the perpetrator. If you're a prayerful woman, a Christian who believes in the Holy Spirit, you have to ask the Holy Spirit to help you forgive. Sometimes the perpetrator is someone, a foreigner, whom you never meet. I read of an article where a student was raped by an electrician. In that case, someone has just come to their work at school, then you are a victim. They can come and abuse your child. And forgiveness is not only for the victim or survivor. Even as a mother, you need to forgive the perpetrator. You may also need to forgive yourself. Because sometimes you're hard on yourself. What could I have done? Where was I? Why did I leave the child with the person? Why did I trust them? But you also need to forgive yourself. Because in forgiving the perpetrator, whether they take responsibility of their offense or not, forgiveness frees you. It releases you to become the best of you. So you need to forgive. You can also use your tragedy to help other people. When you find when you've been abused and you help other women to find their healing, that also helps your healing. Because the more you see other women getting healing, the more you find purpose in that. You find you release. The more you talk to people and you see, sometimes you even hear situations that you look at yourself that I was too hard on myself. This is worse. And when you walk the journey with them, you find healing. I wrote in my book, The King's Dream for His Daughter, that they say hating people hate others. But the King's daughter holds each other's hands and help each other cross over from being a victim to a victor. You cannot cross from being a victim to a victor if you have not forgiven yourself and you have not forgiven others. And you can do that when we seek help from those who can help. You are valuable. I also quote in my book, The King's Dream for His Daughter. A woman who knows her self-worth says no to physical, emotional, sexual, and verbal abuse. It is in refusing to accept it as your fact or identity that you gain strength to stand against it and eventually get victory. You have to come to a position of not associating yourself with it. It's not your identity. It's not your identity. No matter who looked down on you, that's their report. Is that your report? Is that God's report? Does God see you as a sexually abused woman? Does God see you as someone who was abused verbally or physically? It's what we use, the offense, that makes it effective. If we don't accept offense, it has no effect that it's meant to do. So if someone tells you you're stupid, it's what you take those words and do with them that makes it effective. If you don't take the words, then they're not effective. And in closing, God is our restorer. Isaiah 61, verse 3 to 4, it says, "To all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, festive praise instead of despair. We can only go back to God for Him to restore that which He intended in the first place for us to be. You are never alone. It's only when you think you are alone, if you're walking to this journey of life alone, that it becomes unbearable. But God restores. If we go back to Him, no matter what abuse we went through, God restores. If others can still find husbands who can love them when they were abused in their childhood, you too can, if you're not in it. You can find that person who will say, I understand your pain. I want to go through this journey with you. You don't have to go out there and throw yourself to all men because you've got a wound. Every wound can be healed. You just need to find the right medicine. I don't know whether there are one or two questions.
That was the father. It was powerful. You can take a seat. We'll be having a time for questions and answers. So if you have any questions, just write it down, please. And we'll be passing